Hey guys, welcome to Outpost 95. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, tactical medicine. And it's going to be one I think you're really going to enjoy. Going over the TCCC and March algorithms. Thanks for joining us. Alright, why am I qualified to teach you about this? Well, I spent 5 years in the U.S. Navy as a hospital corpsman. There I spent some time with 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, deployed to Iraq once with them. I deployed again with 1st MEF, Marine Expeditionary Force, CASEVAC, Casualty Evacuation. Basically, we were a life flight in a combat zone. Flew around the back of helicopters, picked guys up, moved them around, and did medical stuff in the back of the bird. After that, I spent a little over 10 years in the Border Patrol. Most of that time was spent on a mountain team. You can see while I was on that team, I was the EMT was one of my jobs. And there we did, being a law enforcement world, we did tactical or remote medicine as well. Taught this class quite a bit actually during that time. Was qualified as an EMT while I was with the Border Patrol. I am not currently medically qualified with anything anymore. Taught this course to several hundred people in live audiences, which is why it's my favorite course. A lot of people really like this one. Between the U.S. Navy EMT stuff, I've done several live tissue labs on top of working on people for real. I got to go to OEMS, Operational Emergency Medical Skills, course taught by the guy or one of the guys that came about with the TCCC, or Tactical Combat Casualty Care course and protocols. That was a really good course, learned a lot there. And then just trying to met a student of life, so I've been learning a long time. Medicine's always been a passion of mine. I always think it's good to say what your biases are. My bias as an instructor, that way the student understands what I'm talking about and why I think the way I do. Mine comes from a military guy applying medicine, and then also a God, Jesus-centric view of the world. So all of my views are coming from those two points of view. So that might explain why I think the way I do on certain things. All right, I feel like I got to talk about some lawyer stuff here, just because you're dealing with medicine and the liabilities. Almost every state's got good Samaritan laws. So if you're acting in people's best interests, the best that you know, you're typically covered if you're not certified by any medical body. If you're certified by a medical body, then you'll know all this stuff and it won't apply to you anyways. A standard of care is kind of staying within your scope, knowing that you've got this level of training and not trying to do some crazy thing that you saw on probably YouTube or on TV. Abandonment. If you start working on somebody and then just leave them, that's a big no-no, and that could hold you in trouble with the law. And if you're going to work on somebody, you have to stay working on them unless it's not safe for you to do so anymore or you're physically exhausted. Confidentiality. I'm not quite sure where the law lies, but I will say this, that better err on the side of caution. If you work on somebody in a medical capacity, you don't go blabbing their business to every single person out there. When you're talking about medical scenes, or you can talk about an incident as long as you can't tie it back to who you're talking about. Ultimately though, no, I'm not a certifying body. I'm not even medically certified anymore. I'm not going to make you a doctor, lawyer, or a EMT, corpsman, team medic, any of that stuff. This is just the best practices that I was taught working for the government. I'm just trying to pass that information along to you. If you're going to try and do this stuff for real, it's best to get certified by somebody. Always activate an EMS response if you roll up on a medical scene. That way you're getting the proper care rolling immediately. And contact your doctor and your lawyer before you try doing any of the stuff I'm talking about doing. All right, what's the environment of TCCC? And TCCC is Tactical Combat Casualty Care, or the TAC medicine. It's austere, which means remote or out and away, usually lacking resources, which is the next thing we're talking about. You don't have a lot of stuff. Modern EMS, they'll show up with an ambulance. They've got all kinds of stuff. A doctor in a hospital, lots of stuff. This is built around the realities of military medic or corpsman. They had whatever stuff they brought with them, usually in a backpack or in their pockets. The wounding types were different too than the military versus civilian EMS. Military, they typically dealt with penetrating trauma, pokey things going through the skin. The civilian side, they're usually dealing with car accidents, two people running into each other, blunt force trauma, hit the steering wheels in cars and stuff like that. Completely different types of wounding pathologies, which is why the medicine's slightly different. You got a delayed access to good care, which means it can take a lot longer because it's a tactical environment for somebody to get on to long-term care. So the medical guy in the TCCC environment is having to maintain their casualty or patient for a lot longer, adding a new level or new thing for them to worry about. This environment's still worrying about a mission first. If they stop doing everything that they were trying to do from a tactical perspective, just because one person got hurt, they would never accomplish anything. So they're still trying to operate within the realities of providing really good medical care and trying to accomplish a task. The experience of your team, obviously, it's going to dictate on what level of things that you can do. The more experienced the whole team is, and then the medical guy is, that's going to play into what they can do for their people. And it deals with threat, the amount of resources you have, and how long your evacuation times are really looking at being. So, question people have is: if you learn tactical medicine, is this only good in the tactical environment? No, it's carries over pretty well to just about everything else. The big difference is that you're worried about an outside threat, and then the next difference down is the type of wound pathology. So if you learn these principles and then you go to your kid's soccer game and a kid gets hurt, can you still apply medicine in a safe manner? Absolutely. Or a motor vehicle accident. Motor vehicle accident's a great example. Most of us will roll up on one of those throughout our lives. That scene, that highway where somebody got hit by a car is not safe. Just like if you were in a gunfight, that scene would not be safe. So you're worrying about your safety and then worrying about providing medical care. These principles will apply really well. If you learn this, you can still use this to provide medicine in your day-to-day life. All right, what's the history of TAC medicine or TCCC and the current iteration of military medicine? It's extremely science-based. This whole part should be a couple-hour talk, but I'm not going to try and bore you to death with all that. They've got data going back to the Franco-Prussian War, at the Civil War in the United States, the World Wars. I'm sure there's a ton of data gathered from the War on Terror supporting all this. They go back to the Task Force Ranger, the movie Black Hawk Down. That was the biggest gunfight that we had really been in since Vietnam. And they went back and they said, well, there's got to be a better way of doing things because they've been doing civilian medicine in the military and there was causing some complications and issues. So they went and studied, and what they found were the preventable causes of combat death. Preventable being your key word there. So there was massive hemorrhaging from the extremities, be the arms and the legs, an airway compromise or they can't breathe, and then an open pneumothorax, or it's your sucking chest wound. So the march, which we'll be going over, kind of addresses all of those main ways that people were dying that they need not die. This isn't to say that no one's ever going to die on the battlefield again, but this is how they were dying and they shouldn't have. They should have been still kept alive. But the history of this, if you're a nerd like I am, is actually pretty fascinating. Maybe we'll go over all that in the future. All right, thanks for joining us as we start this series on tactical medicine, tactical combat casualty care. I think you're going to enjoy this one quite a bit. See you in the future. God bless.